Hi class, and welcome to chapter 11 of Because of WinnDixie. This is going to be one of the shortest videos because really we're just reading the chapter. We don't have any vocabulary words to talk about because I talked about them all in chapter 10, so you can do that vocab review. Hope everyone's done it, sharpened up on your vocabulary words. In chapter 10, real quick review, they talked about Opal maybe having a green thumb. I guess Gloria Dump talked about Opal maybe having a green thumb. And that was our vocab word actually for chapter 10. What is a green thumb? Someone who can grow plants really well. So Gloria Dump said that to Opal because she was telling her all these things about her mom. And that was one thing maybe Gloria said that she might still have in common with her mom and we should test out. So it looks like Opal's going to be growing a tree in Miss Gloria's yard. So we're going to have to see what kind of tree it is and maybe a little bit more if she is a green thumb like her mom is. Maybe she has that connection with her. But I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into chapter 11. Let's see where they go next. That night there was a real big thunderstorm, but what woke me up wasn't the thunder and lightning, it was WinnDixie, whining and butting his head against the bedroom door. WinnDixie, I said, what are you doing? He didn't pay any attention to me. He just kept beating his head against the door and whining and whimpering. And when I got out of bed and went over and put my hand on his head, he was shaking and trembling, so that scared me. I knelt down and wrapped my arms around him, but he didn't turn and look at me or smile or sneeze or wag his tail or do any of the normal kind of WinnDixie things. He just kept beating his head against the door and crying and shaking. You want the door open? I said. Huh? Is that it? You want the door open? I stood up and opened the door, and WinnDixie flew through it like something big and ugly and mean was chasing him. WinnDixie, I hissed, come back here. I don't want you going and waking up the preacher. But it was too late. WinnDixie was already at the other end of the trailer in the preacher's room. I could tell because there was a sploing sound that must have come from WinnDixie jumping on the bed. And then there was a sound from the preacher like he was real surprised. But none of it lasted long because WinnDixie came tearing back out of the preacher's room, panting and running like crazy. I tried to grab him, but he was going too fast. Opal, said the preacher. He was standing at the door of his bedroom, and his hair was all kind of wild on top of his head. And he was looking around like he wasn't sure where he was. Opal, what's going on? I don't know, I told him. But just then there was a huge crack of thunder, one so loud that it made the whole trailer shake. And WinnDixie came shooting back out of the room and went running past me, and I screamed, Daddy, watch out! But the preacher was still confused. He just stood there, and WinnDixie came barreling right towards him, like he was a bowling ball, and the preacher was the only pin left standing. And wham! They both fell to the floor. Uh-oh, I said. Opal, said the preacher. He was lying on his stomach, and WinnDixie was standing on top of him, panting and whining. Yes, sir, I said. Opal, the preacher said again. Yes, sir, I said louder. Do you know what a pathological fear is? No, sir, I told him. The preacher raised a hand and rubbed his nose. Well, he said after a minute, it's a fear that goes way beyond normal fears. It's a fear you can't be talked out of or reasoned out of. Just then there was another crack, and WinnDixie rose straight up in the air like somebody had poked him with something red hot. When he hit the floor, he started running. He ran back to my bedroom, and I didn't even try to catch him. I just got out of his way. The preacher lay there on the ground, rubbing his nose. Finally, he sat up. He said, Opal, I believe WinnDixie has a pathological fear of thunderstorms. And just when he was finished with his sentence, here came WinnDixie again, running to save his life. I got the preacher up off the floor and out of the way just in time. There didn't seem to be a thing we could do for WinnDixie to make him feel better. So we just sat there and watched him run back and forth, all terrorized and panting. And every time there was another crack of thunder, WinnDixie acted all over again like it was surely the end of the world. The storm won't last long, said the preacher. And when it's over, the real WinnDixie will come back. After a while, the storm did end. The rain stopped and there wasn't any more lightning. And finally, the last rumble of thunder went away, and WinnDixie quit running back and forth and came over where me and the preacher were sitting and cocked his head like he was saying, "What in the world are you two doing out of bed in the middle of the night?" And then he crept on the couch with us in this funny way he does, where he gets on the couch an inch at a time, kind of sliding himself onto it, looking off in different directions like it's all happening by accident, like he doesn't intend to get on the couch, but all of a sudden, there he is. And so 3 of us sat there on the couch. I rubbed WinnDixie's head and scratched him behind the ears the way he liked, and the preacher said, "There are an awful lot of thunderstorms in Florida in the summertime." "Yes, sir," I said. I was afraid that maybe he would say we couldn't keep the dog who went crazy with a pathological fear every time there was a crack of thunder. "We'll have to keep an eye on him," the preacher said. He put his arm around WinnDixie. "We'll have to make sure he doesn't get out during a storm. He might run away. We'll have to make sure we keep him safe." "Yes, sir," I said again. All of a sudden, it was hard for me to talk. I loved the preacher so much. I loved him because he loved WinnDixie. I loved him because he was going to forgive WinnDixie for being afraid. But most of all, I loved him for putting his arm around WinnDixie like that, like he was already trying to keep him safe. The end of chapter 11. I like that one, guys. It kind of gave me goosebumps at the end, the way that Opal was talking about the preacher, and kind of showing more of herself and giving us a little bit more information about the preacher, too, I think, in WinnDixie. I pulled out some vocabulary words, you know I did, so come on and read chapter 12 so we can go over those first and figure out what happens in chapter 12. Will there be another thunderstorm? Will we get a little bit more information about some of these characters? Come back and see. Bye.